Okay, that's it. Really simple intro. Hello and welcome to podcast number, I think we're on number 8 or number 9 by now. Today we are joined by, number 8 by the way, we're joined by Nikki Tapley of much Facebook fame of various groups, including Collabor8. Thank you for joining us, Nikki.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We have been chatting for quite a while on Facebook and over the phone and things, and thought it would be worth getting you in just to chat about Collabor8 and all the various bits and bobs you're up to at the moment. I guess just a bit of housekeeping to start off with. There is... I have bad hay fever today, so if I start crying, then ignore me. It's just hay fever. And generally, it's a pretty open format, so if there is anyone watching on the live stream, I know we've got a few people at the moment. If you've got any questions or anything you want to talk about, then just shout and write something in the, I think, Facebook chat. It was broken the other day. It looks to be working, so I can actually see what people are writing now. So if you want to ask any questions of either myself or Nikki, then please ask away. So Nikki, hello.
Hello.
I don't know if you want to just kick off a bit with a bit about yourself and a bit about Collabor8 or any other kind of things you're looking into at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm Nikki. I have a few businesses that I am currently working on. My baby, and I suppose possibly my favourite, is Collabor8, because it's the one that I'm super passionate about, although I'm passionate about everything I do. But Collabor8 for me started at a time when I had very young children. I was at a crossroads in my own business, and I decided to reach out to the world of Facebook and see how other people out there were managing getting a business off the ground whilst also looking after children. So I started a group on Facebook and was not expecting what would follow as a result. The group grew ridiculously quickly, and I found myself spending most of my waking hours on Facebook, monitoring the group, responding to people, making sure that people felt heard, kind of nurturing that group, moderating it, making sure that it didn't get covered up in spam, because I didn't want my space to become full of ads. And it grew, and off the back of that I realised that I couldn't spend every waking hour on Facebook without finding a way to monetize that.
Yeah.
So rather than charge people to be in the group, which really went against my values, I decided to create an offshoot where we could actually meet up in real life, as well as through the joys, is the word I'm looking for, the joys of social media. And so I created the membership as an option for people to buy into, and that would facilitate the depth of relationship that you don't get necessarily through social media. So that was the birth of Collabor8.
And how long has that been running for now?
So Collabor8 itself has been going just over 18 months. About 6 months in, I changed it slightly, because what I'd realised was that by focusing on parents, it was a great niche, and in marketing, we're always talking about niching down and making sure that, you know who your audience are. But I actually felt like it was very exclusive to people who had gone through that life stage, and it just felt kind of wrong in my gut when somebody pointed out that they couldn't get involved, or they didn't feel they could get involved because they weren't a parent. So I decided, what the heck, let's just branch out and open this up to the people that want to be part of it. So it's now just for anyone. It's for people who run businesses, not parents.
And so how have you found that? Because assuming you started, how old were your kids when you started that then?
When I started Collabor8, so Emily would have been about 18 months and Isabel would have been about 4, yeah.
So is that one in school, one not in school?
She hadn't started school, but she has now.
Right,
so
okay.
She was in preschool, Emily was at home.
Yeah.
But I'd started my business for myself properly going for it when Emily was actually just a few months old. And
right,
Isabel
okay.
was still pretty much at home, but I'd done a good year or so in my business before I started Collabor8. So
right, okay.
Yeah.
So you kept very, very busy then, I imagine, with all of that going on.
Yeah, and I was working at the same time as well. So I had, about 20 hours a week job. I was growing my business and being present for my kids almost full time. So people.
Well, that's how quite a lot of it starts off, isn't it? So you do your full-time job, and then you start off the thing you'd like to start in the evenings and weekends, and then hopefully grow it so that builds enough so you can then kind of leave your full-time job and then do the fun thing, or the fun thing that then turns into the work thing, I guess.
Yeah, and in theory that works really well if you're just working, but when you're a full-time mum as well, what you're doing is, I was working out of hours, so I would go to work at 5 o'clock in the evening, come back just on midnight, get a few hours kip if my children didn't wake me up, which they usually would. I'd then send possibly my eldest off to preschool and have my youngest with me, and when she napped, I would do my work. So I was cramming my business into the few hours that she might sleep.
It's a lot of hard work then.
It was, and it's one of those things that it's a stage of life that I went through that has taught me so much about what we're capable of as human beings.
Must get very good at time management with
Yes.
that.
Yeah. And I think time management is something that has got me to where I am now. I think if I hadn't had the discipline and the motivation and the drive to manage my time, I wouldn't be here. I would have failed in the very early stages and given up. But I think my determination and people do say to me, I don't know how you do it all, Nikki. And I'm like, I just do. I can't tell you how. I just do.
It's quite nice when you hear that, because we get that quite often with lots of this stuff we're doing. So like the podcast and the video, all the social media stuff we do. People say that you put out so much content, which I like hearing, because it's nice to know that we're obviously getting out there and everyone's going, oh wow, how are they like doing all of that? But it's just, you just get on with it. You just do it a bit at a time, and then it happens.
It's a mindset. And I talk a lot about mindset with people. I run the Business Success Squad currently, and we've got 12 people on that. And I'm always harping on about mindset, because when you want something and you're driven, you push yourself outside of your comfort zone. You face what needs to be dealt with in order to make the progress that you want to make, and you've just pushed through. And that's it's having a growth mindset, being willing to learn, being willing to push yourself to achieve your goals, rather than just looking at the massive challenge ahead and thinking there's no way I can do this. It's your state of mind that gets you through. And if you're not in the right headspace, you won't get there.
And you shared there was that graphic you shared. Was it yesterday, the day before?
Yeah,
about
yesterday.
Where your headspace was?
Yeah.
Maybe just talk a bit about that. I'll be interested to know where you think you sit on there at the moment.
Yes, so the graphic, for anyone that didn't see it, is something that's been shared before. It's not unique to me, so I can't claim dibs on that. But it's basically showing how you move through you start off in your comfort zone, you press through fear, the fear zone, through learning zone and into growth zone, and kind of it just explains how that process works, and it presents it as a linear process. So you start in one place and you move all the way through those stages. But my take on it is that it is actually cyclical. So you're not at any one place, just in one of those zones. I think different aspects of life, you can be in different places. So for example, in your family life, you may be very much in the growth zone and embracing raising a family and learning new things and kind of becoming a better parent or whatever. But you'll not stay there. You'll go full circle, and you'll be then, all right, I'm in my comfort zone now. I've learnt my lessons. This is where I am. And then something will happen, and you'll be like, oh my goodness, I've got this horrible challenge that I now have to face. So you're in the fear zone again. And then once you've overcome that fear, you come out of that into learning. And you learn the lessons that you need to learn so that you grow. And it's a constant revolving cycle. So you do comfort, fear, learning, growth, and then you go right back around. And I don't think the diagram really presents that very
I think
well.
I have the exact same thing on I think when I commented, I was like, today I'm in this zone, and then the rest of the week I'm in all the other 3 or 4 zones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's just, and literally it can change probably hourly. It can change definitely day to day, but it just depends what you're doing. And I definitely go through the fear zone fairly often when you're doing stuff that's completely out of comfort zones, and you don't want to do it. The live streaming and podcasting stuff was, on the video stuff to start with, was horrendous, because that was when you start sitting down in front of a camera and you stare at the camera and you're talking to yourself. That was just horrendous for the first 3 or 4 times, I think. But then after then it got a lot easier, and then it kind of moved into the comfort zone. And then now I still need to figure out how to do the YouTubers that do the whole like holding the camera up whilst they're out and about in the public spaces.
Yep.
I can't do that yet. It's just
get yourself a gimbal. Off you go.
I've got one.
Have you?
Yeah, I've got all the kit, but none of the ideas, or however the phrase goes.
Oh, bless you.
But it's it's just too embarrassing. I've done 1 or 2 where I've because there's a lovely little walk around here, around the outside of the golf course, which is nice and quiet. So I've done 1 video out there, and I took my skateboard down there, which was quite nice. And then I sat down, talked to myself. I think 1 or 2 people walked behind me, but they were so far behind me that I didn't worry about it. But even that was a bit, someone's going to see me doing it. It just feels a bit horrible.
It's a fear thing.
Very much so.
What's the worst that's going to happen if they see you doing it?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I've seen lots of the YouTube videos I watch. You can see people being interrupted, and then they'll talk about it on the YouTube video. They'll just go, that guy wanted to just ask and didn't realise I was filming, and just kind of laugh it off. But it just feels awkward to me still. So, yeah, very much so. But yeah, literally any time of any hour of the day, any day of the week, I can just go through all the phases, I think, really. Yeah,
well, I think the thing to bear in mind is comfort zone is a lovely, cosy, happy place to be. But actually, if you're planning on growing or going anywhere in your life beyond where you're currently at right now, then you've got to feel the fear. You've got to go through that. in order to learn, in order to achieve. And
well, I
then
think
once
you can only
achieved
stay in
that,
the
you're
comfort zone for so long, because
Yeah.
otherwise you'll get bored and just complacent with everything.
Yeah, but I think it's that, again, it comes down to mindset. Some people are very content to be content and just accept that that's where they're at, and not seek anything further. And I think to some extent that's quite nice. If you're
Yeah.
really that content that you have no desire
Very true.
to change or to grow or to learn, then actually it shows that real sense of acceptance and happiness with where you're at. I mean, for me, I am somebody who loves to learn. I love learning. I'm like a sponge.
Yeah,
I just
same.
absorb information, and then I love to be able to apply it and use it to help people and to sort of push myself further towards where I want to be. So I don't have that ability to just sit in the comfort zone for any period of time at the moment, because it actually feels very uncomfortable to be too comfortable.
Yeah, always need to be busy, always doing something new.
Always doing something new. Yeah, not always busy. Sometimes time out is good.
Yeah.
But having a new challenge on the horizon, even if it's not right now, it's always that thrill of, oh, what can I learn? What can I explore here? And what have I got that I can then share as a result?
So talk a bit about, was it the Business Success Squad or something you called it?
Yeah.
Is that something quite new?
It is
that,
new,
yeah?
yeah. So we started it in April. So it's, we're a good few months in now. And I started that because I was doing a lot of one-to-one business mentoring with startups particularly, but also some more established businesses that had just got stuck in a rut, working with the business owner on where they wanted their business to go. And it kind of started off being empowerment coaching and a bit of focus on mindset. But what I realised was that where people were coming unstuck seemed to hit several categories.
Right.
And I just thought, actually, I'm going through the same sort of stuff over and over again with different people. Why not bring a whole group of people together and just go through that whole thing with them all, so that they can all benefit from the same
Yeah, makes
information.
sense. Rather than having the same discussion
Absolutely,
5 times, 10
and
times.
it's better on their pocket as well. And I'm all about
Mm.
value and making sure that people don't spend more money than they need to.
Yeah.
So the squad's got kind of 6 modules. So we start off with vision, values, and goals. Then we go through business planning. Then we're going through mindset stuff, which is coming up at the beginning of August. Then we do marketing strategy, networking, and then scaling and growth strategies. So it's taking people on a journey over the course of a year to figure out what they want from their life, what they want from their business, how they're going to achieve that, giving them some skills and giving them some tools and a strategy to go and make that happen, with a view to this is where they want to go in the long run. And it's been really, really interesting. I'd say 50% of the guys in the squad have really been able to nail their goals, and they've got their vision and they know where they want to go. The other 50% have really found that difficult, and they typically tend to be people at the very beginning of their business journey, and they still can't quite believe that they're capable of doing something for themselves that will replace their income. It just seems like such a huge concept to be able to hold on to. They can't possibly conceive scaling it and growing it and having a great big asset of a business. So it's kind of about accepting that everyone's at a different stage in their journey, and a goal for one person will be very different for another person, just because of where they're at in their journeys. But the great thing is that together they can all go on that process, and it's helping all of them to expand their minds and to think bigger and to challenge themselves. And some people find that quite difficult, but that's okay, because that's what we're here for. So
yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things that we've done that's made, again, probably the biggest impact, is doing that plan, doing like the 12, or I think we did an 18-month plan to start off with. So we planned out, and you plan out your whole year from both a business and personal perspective. So you want to do all the personal goals you want to do, whether you want to get fit or family time or do up the house, anything on those side of things. And then on the business side of things, of course, how many customers do you want to take on this year, or well, I guess actually it starts from the other end of the situation of where do you want to be. It always starts off from the personal point of view, because you need the business to pay for the personal stuff.
Absolutely.
So you kind of plan your ideal year, and all your Disneyland holidays, whatever, and get them cost £10,000 or something silly. Well, silly to me, normal for most people or some people. And plan all that back, and then you just run it back from there. So you might be thinking, I just want more customers. Whereas you might not. You might need to plan out what your personal life would like to be, your ideal personal life, and then you might only need 1 or 2 customers to get there, or however it might work out for your own kind of situation. But that was quite a big shift for us, and something we've done just after we moved into these offices was we first of all we moved in and thought, oh crap, we need a load more customers to pay for all the new office space and all desperate for more business. But now we're reviewing and actually going, well, actually, if we kind of just improve what we've currently got, and just be more efficient with our time and make sure the guys are billing their time properly. And we've got a bit of an issue here. Well, not an issue, but where people are so busy, they're not necessarily logging their time properly when they're doing things, because everything we do is time based. Pay for our time to fix things. So lots of the time people are just working on things. The phone will ring and they'll start fixing the issue for someone else, and then they'll get pulled into something else, and it's so difficult to track and account for all your time within that. So now, having moved into the offices, we've seen that and gone, well, actually, if we just fix that time issue or try and improve it, we don't actually necessarily need new customers per se at all. We can just fix what we've got.
Yeah.
And then we're still, we're not in a bad position. We're obviously doing okay for ourselves, but you can always do better. That's one of my things my wife always hates. Never happy. Could always do better. But I think just someone like you said, having someone take you through that process really helps, because someone first took me through that process 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was. And now we've been through that process once. We now do it ourselves every single year. So every 12 months we try and have a weekend or an evening at least where we can sit there and plan it. With kids, it's quite difficult to get time, as I'm sure you're well aware, to plan for anything. So, and before kids, it was always a holiday. And in fact, when we first set up the business, we literally went on holiday, and every evening for that whole week we were away, we were sat there going, can we afford it? How many customers do we need? What we're gonna sell? How are we gonna price it? That whole kind of, how do you build a business?
Yeah, the whole business planning process
was all done in Turkey, I think it was. All done in a holiday to Turkey.
Sure, it's really important to do it though, really important. And we're at a point at the moment in the process where the guys in the squad have had the teaching as to how to do a business plan. They've got a template, they've got notes, and sitting down and doing it's mind over matter. And actually, I think that for a lot of particularly small business owners, the process is quite daunting, because you're kind of going round and round in circles in your head thinking, oh, but if I do that, then that's going to happen, or is that going to work? And actually sitting down and putting it on paper is almost a commitment. It's quite a hard thing to make yourself do. And there's all these little lies going around in your head thinking, no, you can't do that, that's too expensive, or you're not good enough to charge that much, or people aren't going to buy from you if you charge that much. And it's actually just giving yourself that headspace to sit down, and doing it on holidays great because you're relaxed.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to do it, and you're trying to do it amongst loads of other busyness, it can be quite hard to get the focus that you need to really commit to that process. And I think that's where some of my guys are finding it hard at the moment, is they are so busy. We've got one lady who's amazing. She's doing a full-time day job. She's running her business around her day job. She's got a family as well. She's working super hard, and it's understandable that she's going to struggle to find time where definitely. Her head is completely clear that she can sit and do this, because she's juggling so much. When she is sitting down to do it, her head's full of stuff. Yeah, it's actually kind of just going, I need to take some time. Yeah. And that's why I say to people, try not to just do an hour here and an hour there if you can, but give yourself some time that you book out. And you say, right, this is when I'm going to do it, and take yourself off somewhere where you can relax and you can focus, that's quiet without distractions, because otherwise you're going to really struggle to be able to get that process done. Yeah. So yeah, it's a tricky thing, and it's something that I myself have found very difficult to do. I know, and you've been through it as well. It's not an easy thing to have to sit down and work out exactly how your business is going to grow, because there's all that uncertainty about, will it actually work? But if you don't have a plan, you're going to make completely random decisions that make no sense whatsoever, and that certainly isn't going to work for your benefit.
Well, I think that must have been probably the first, we had a plan when we first started up, but I'm sure the first 2 or 3 years, technically now we're still winging a lot of it. You just kind of make it up as you go along, having never really done this before.
Yeah, and you can only plan so far ahead when you're a relatively new business as well. Yeah. And your head can only conceive an idea so big when you first start out, and it's about constantly reviewing. Okay, so now we're here, where are we going next? And that's why the whole business plan is a working document. It's not a static thing that you do once and you put away and you never look at again, and that's the end. It's very much about keeping that up to date, and if it's not working, change it. Yeah. It's fine. It's not going according to plan. Well, the whole world is over. I might as well just give up then.
Well, that's the nice thing about being a new business, is you can change things very quickly. Whereas, the bigger you get, the more difficult it is to put any changes in, because you might upset your customers or your staff. Or
you must find that now where you're at.
Yeah, we it's not too difficult still. We're still small enough, I think, to make changes. The worry I have is, we'll bring new products into the offering. Like security is a big one, because obviously security is very big with lots of small businesses. and it's constantly changing, and there's new threats every day, and all this kind of cybersecurity things. But we want to protect our customers, and every time something new comes out, we're like, okay, let's have a look at it. Oh, that looks really good. Let's kind of bring that into our offering. So I feel like and I'm not a salesman at all, but it feels like I'm just a salesman, because it's going, and now you need to buy this that's £2 a month, and this that's another £5 a month, and I get tired of it. So I just worry that our customers must get tired of it too, of me going, oh, and now you need this because this is going to do this that you never needed last year, but now you need it. And it just gets frustrating.
It's them understanding that technology is always changing, isn't it? And you've
yeah,
got
very
their
much
best
so.
interests at heart. And I think there's an element of building up trust with your customers, that you're not going to sell something that they don't need. And I think it's a lot of people running businesses, me included, have to go through these little patches of really feeling quite uncomfortable selling, because we feel like we might be risking putting something on someone that they don't really want. And we've all been through that, where we've had a yucky salesman just forcing stuff at you, using all these tactics and conning you into something that you really don't need or want, but making you believe in that moment that you do, and you sign up and then it's too late. And I think the difference between a good salesperson and a bad salesperson is that a good salesperson asks questions and listens to what their customer needs, and then offers them a solution to their problem that is genuinely a solution. And if you've got a true solution to a problem, you need to offer that to your customer, because if you don't, then you're doing them a disservice by not fixing their problem for them.
Well, exactly, yeah.
So
and it's just, and I think the difficulty particularly with the cybersecurity side of things, is that no one really cares until it happens.
Yeah.
And so you're going in, it's insurance. You want to pay this much money a month for this thing that's going to protect you against this, but you might not ever need it. But if you did actually need it, then you wish you would have spent the most money in the world to have got the best version of it, much like with insurance. But yeah, I mean, that's something I've always really struggled with, and I'm not a salesman at all. And we've really built the business through, it's always been like customer support and service and that side of things. We didn't really spend any money on marketing or social or sales or anything in the first probably like 5 years, I think. When we first started off, it was just customers recommend us to other customers, which is fantastic. To be able to build a business off the back of recommendations.
That's phenomenal. I mean, it's something that I aspire to. I'm constantly asking my Collabor8 members, please invite your friends, because they'll tell me, I love it, I get so much out of it, it's great, I've got this piece of business, I've got that piece of business, I've learnt this, I've got this, so grateful to be a part of it. And I'm like, tell people then, because normally that's how businesses are built, is especially at the beginning, in the early stages, it's recommendations, because you've got to build up a big enough following of people that have that can vouch for you. It's a kind of critical mass kind of thing, and it's just those recommendations are critical in getting to that point. So I'm always asking my guys, please invite friends, please tell people about it, please recommend, because people need to be reminded as well sometimes. I would rather I didn't have to remind people. I'd rather it was so great. But I think we're all so busy and we've all got so much on that you can't expect people to just do it off the cuff. Occasionally when they do, it's amazing. It's the best thing ever. But it's great that you've built your business through that. And that's something I'm a big advocate for, is growing your business organically and not spending lots of money on marketing, which is why, although I'm not doing one-to-one business mentoring anymore, because I feel like I can best serve people focusing in on where my expertise is, and my expertise is growing a business organically with no advertising spend, and just through networking. So I want to focus on nailing your networking. That's what I'm calling it now. My one-to-one support is just focusing specifically on being a better networker and growing your business that way.
Do you want to talk a bit more about the networking events that you're doing? Because I guess that's a big part of it, is the networking and getting to know people and introducing people to other people. So I'm going to my first BNI networking session tomorrow in 6 years of business, and I've never really been a fan of BNI.
How can you not be a fan of it if you've never been?
Well, no. So we went to BNI when we very first started the business, and we were a member for about a year and a half. But it was a group that never launched, so it was a small group of like 8 people.
Yeah, it's tricky.
And I think at the time I left, it then merged with another group. But after that, a year and a half in, and nothing had really happened with it. I got a bit fed up. But so I understand the format and everything. I've never been a huge fan of it, but I know lots of it's about the people in the room. It just depends which kind of group of people you get into. And I think the group it didn't help that it was such a small group before, that I just got fed up. So I'm giving it another try tomorrow to see if it's any different in a room full of people. But obviously that's got a very fixed format in how BNI works. I don't know how your kind of networking sessions are like.
The polar opposite of BNI.
Cool.
So I've been a member of BNI myself. Obviously with at the time, predominantly my business was running the network. So there's a bit of a conflict
going
there.
to a networking session to advertise a networking session.
And when I first started, I'd been told it would be fine, but I very quickly realised that obviously people attending the BNI group want to invite their friends to join the BNI group, not to join another group. So it didn't really work amazingly well. However, saying that, I do think the BNI format really does work for people if you learn how to work it and you apply it. But it's not for everyone, and that's the thing. It's different strokes for different folks. For me, networking is something I've had to do to grow my business because I needed to at the beginning. Now I do it because I want to. But the thing that makes networking enjoyable for me is the opportunity to really get to know people. And there's nothing worse than going up to somebody in a networking meeting and them just going straight in and saying, well, tell me what you do. And you say, what do I do? Well, I do lots of things. And you just it throws you off straight away. There's no, how are you? What's your name? Where are you from? Tell me about yourself. It's what you do. They're only interested in what you do. And if it's not of relevance to them, you see their eyes glaze over. Yeah. And they're looking over your shoulder for someone else that they can go and talk to that they might be able to do business with. And that happened to me at the very, very beginning of my networking journey. And I think what it taught me was there is a need to educate people as to how to be better networkers, which is now what I'm doing. But B, there is a need to create an environment within which that doesn't happen. And so for me, that's what Collabor8 was about. It's about bringing people together as people, first and foremost, and allowing them the time and space to actually get to know each other as people and giving them topics to talk about that are relevant to them as business owners and to kind of share their experiences and ask their questions and feel comfortable enough to put something out there to the room or to the group around their table and say, do you know what, this is something I'm finding really hard right now. Has anyone got anything that they can share with me as to how I might deal with this? So somebody recently described it as the cheapest mastermind they'd ever come across. Cool. People that aren't in kind of personal development, if you've not read Napoleon Hill, you might never have heard of a mastermind. But a mastermind concept is about getting a group of people together who can bounce ideas off each other, learn from each other and share. And that's essentially what Collabor8 is. So our meetups are about having real quality conversations or topics that are relevant to business owners. And we only really take business owners into membership. So I've been approached by some corporates who wanted to send a BDM along because they could see an opportunity. And I've had to say, no, I'm really sorry. You know, it's not about the money in my pocket. It's actually about providing this safe environment for people.
That's what's done not does my head in, but that's what's frustrated me to quite a few networking events you go to, and it's full of account managers and marketing people. It's not like the business owners themselves that you want to kind of get to know. Not that I'm expecting to, sell to the people in the room. No. But it's just wanting to build relationships with, the owners of the businesses because they're going through the same things you're going through. And you can discuss those things where you can't go to your marketing person from XYZ company and be like, oh, payroll this month, or those tax things the tax changes they've made, or blimmin', was it MTD, making tax digital, all those changes. You just can't do that. So it's nice to be able to share those with someone else in the room. And so a quick question for you in terms of, so if you're not necessarily new to networking, would you have a top tip for maybe someone that's an introvert, and I'm quite an introvert at times, who is going to a networking event and there's a room full of people? What do you do? Okay,
so I always say to people before you go networking, have a bit of a plan in your head as to what you're going to do. If you know what the format is, that's helpful. So see if you can find out what the format is. I think if you know what to expect, it just makes you feel that little bit more comfortable, and you can kind of say, right, well, this bit I can go and do that, and this bit I can go and do that, so it's all going to be fine. So I think know what the format is, and if you can, link up with somebody who will be there beforehand and arrange to meet them at the beginning so that you can be looking out for them and you're not going somewhere where the whole room is full of strangers and you have no idea who's going to be there and what they do. Having a familiar face, just one person. And that's why it's great to be invited by someone to networking, because at least then they are there and they will sort of support you through the process. That's how I started. I was invited and it went from there. So find someone who's going. Breathing and time management ahead of the event. So being prepared for what's to come does involve an element of you being in a positive state of mind. And so running late, rushing in, worrying that everyone's going to have started without you and everyone's going to turn and look as someone walks through the door. Everyone has that fear. So get there early. Don't push it to the last minute and have something planned right before and immediately after. Give yourself that freedom of time to actually meander on up there, do your thing, go to the loo, grab a coffee, and, not worrying about being late. Breathing, and actually, if you control your breathing, you can learn how to do breathing exercises that will help you to stay calm and just to kind of ground yourself and get centered before you go in. And then just kind of, it's a little something that I always do to myself, and I don't know if it's just that I'm a bit strange, but although I do get a lot of energy from being with people, I do find it very daunting to walk into a room of people that I don't know, but I'm just very used to making myself do it. And one of the things that I do to prepare myself before I go in is I've driven, so I'm in my car and I sit there and I take some deep breaths and I kind of just notice what I notice around me. I have a bit of a mindful moment of just sort of being present, and then I think to myself, right, what am I going to get from this morning? And I usually will have a little plan for myself. So whether that is just to meet one new person who I haven't met before and have a decent conversation with someone, or whether that is to find out something about someone, I just set myself like a little agenda, secret task. It makes me focus on something rather than the enormity of a room full of people that I don't know. So I will kind of think to I have a bit of a networking strategy, if you like, in terms of when I go networking, the kinds of people that I'm wanting to speak to, what I want to find out about them, because time is precious. You don't have long at networking. Most networking events aren't like ours, and you only get a few minutes with each person in the whole swing of the event. So you kind of got to quite quickly figure out somebody, whether you think there's someone that you could help, work with, want to build a relationship with, whether you want to spend the time on a one-to-one having a coffee with them. So it's kind of about thinking, what do I need to gather from people quickly in order to establish if there's any potential synergy or collaboration opportunity here. So I kind of always have that in the back of my head as well. But I think in terms of answering your question, to get prepared for networking, just being kind to yourself by not pushing yourself too hard in the run up and making sure that you arrive in a relaxed state of mind makes I think you touched on the
arriving early is probably my best tip, because I had that issue all the time, in that I would, particularly things like LinkedIn Local, and you're trying to get to, was it the Village Hotel at rush hour? It was so difficult, and I've walked into the room quite a few times, and not just LinkedIn Local and other networking events, and it's just full of people who are already talking in their own little kind of groups, and you're like, what do I do? Who do I talk to? And getting in the first is probably one of the biggest tips I've got, because you just, someone's there already on their own looking for someone to talk to, so at least you start off with somebody, and then it seems to be a lot easier once you kind of get into the flow of it, I think, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I think once you start networking, you realise that the world's actually a very small place. Most people will know somebody else that you know, and the more you network, the more familiar you get with a networking circuit. You see familiar faces popping up, and there's always this, at least a handful of people in a room now that will know me when I walk in, and it's the most lovely feeling when you think there's always going to be a friend there. But in the early days, and you don't have that, I think absolutely being in the room before people arrive into the room, they're almost going to be looking for somebody who looks friendly. So if you're there and you're positioned, you can actually be that friendly face to people, and you don't have to go and attach yourself. And my little other tip is, if I'm going somewhere I don't know anybody, the first thing I'll do is I'll go and use the facilities to make sure that I don't need to excuse myself during the morning. And then I will go and grab myself a cup of coffee and just take my time over that, because it's just kind of getting used to being in the environment, so getting familiar with where things are, and then when you're making your coffee, just taking your time over doing that, because the likelihood is someone else will come up and make a coffee, and you can actually end up having a little chat naturally, and that's a really nice way to start. So typically that's what I'll do. If by the time I finish making coffee no one's come up and said hello, then I'll typically look around the room for people that look friendly, who aren't so closed in their body language that you think, oh, I really can't go and interrupt those people. I'll go and find a little group like that and just go and hover. And then when they notice me, which they will, I'll say, is it all right if I join? And they'll be like, yeah, sure, because normally most people are polite enough to say
Yeah.
that. I've never had anyone say no.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, very true. And that's probably the most awkward moment I've had is that when you're kind of hovering and you're wondering, are they gonna be friends? It's that kind of, yeah, very much so. But it's just and it's but it's actually worked quite well. So the video stuff that we're doing at the moment has worked quite well because I'll go to some networking events, and if there are people in the room that I don't know, generally 1 or 2 people will know me because of the videos that are going out. And that's worked really well because people will then start approaching me, and I'll be sat there like a lemon waiting for someone, and someone will come to me and be like, oh, you're the guy from the videos or something. And then that's kind of the intro done, which is really, really useful. So that's kind of a little off thing that I never kind of expected would happen off the back of doing the videos, which is quite nice.
And being known, and that's one of the beauties of networking online as well.
Yeah.
This is what I teach people with the networking stuff, is use online to complement offline and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, if you participate in groups, for example, on Facebook, and then you go to one of their networking events. So we run networking events offline, but we've got our free online group. So you can kind of get to know who the regular commenters are, and sort of link up with them. And then when you go to a meetup and there's actually people there that you've spoken to online, it breaks the ice much quicker, and there are familiar faces, and it's really lovely, rather than it being a room full of strangers. Even though you might have never put a face to a name before, being able to do that is the icebreaker. And so that's a really good thing to be able to do, and to have your face known and your name known before you go to a networking event is great, because when you arrive, people are like, oh, I know you, you're Nikki Tapley, it's you, I've seen you on all your lives, which actually, just if I may add,
of course,
that is why lives are so friggin' powerful. I think, I get that people are anxious about going live, but just practice it in a little closed group that you might belong to, and just say, hey guys, I want to try a live, can I just have a go? There's loads of little groups on Facebook.
So we have a secret techers no, I'm not going to give you the name of it, because I was going to go find it. We've got a secret techers channel, I think literally on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I don't think we've got a Twitter one, but just to test the live stuff out, mainly for like the technical stuff, make sure it works properly. But yeah, it's just the live was very difficult for me, and I'm still a bit nervous when I'm doing these kind of things because it's live and you can't make any mistakes. Whereas with the video stuff, it's great because I can chop that a gazillion times and make me look good or reasonably passable. But the live stuff is it's still quite nervous. And we did a Hampshire Chamber meet the Chamber event last week, week before last, where we took all this stuff with us, with the idea being that we were going to kind of help the Hampshire Chamber to get the members on and do like interviews and stuff with them. And in my head, I had it pictured of we sat with the Hampshire Chamber people with their stand, and then we'd be doing kind of live stream with them, and they'd be sat down chatting to their members, and they're literally kind of, here's your stand in the corner of the room that was away from everyone else to keep it quiet from the microphones and everything. And they're like, yeah, just go for it. Oh, okay. And then it turned out that I was going to then interview all their members for the whole event, and I think we got about 15 people came to talk to us, which was great, because that was really nice, because then we got to meet some new people and discuss all about their businesses and learn all about them, which is nice. But I wasn't expecting to be a host for an afternoon.
It's good practice,
very
though.
unexpected.
But I think a lot of people are worried about making mistakes going live and what they're going to come across like and how they're going to look. And I think there is an element of practicing and knowing, certain. I'm by no stretch. I have my own little style, and I tend to ignore certain pieces of advice that some people might put out there, and I'll give my own advice as I see fit. But I think a lot of people are so worried about how they're going to come across that it makes them feel really, really anxious, and then it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. It all goes wrong because they're getting tongue-tied and kind of sweaty and stressed, and and sort of only end up doing 10 seconds because they freak out and have to stop it and sort of just say, hi, I'm doing a live, okay, nice to see you, bye.
Forgotten.
And actually, I think I don't take it for granted that I'm very fortunate that I'm quite comfortable putting myself out there. I've overcome that fear because I made myself do it. Yeah. It's almost forgotten for me now. I remember what I felt like in the beginning doing it, feeling massively nervous, but it's going through that fear zone, and coming out the other side. The easiest thing I've
done with that is I try not to script anything, because as soon as I script it, which is good for some people, because if you are very, very nervous and you script it, then you can maybe read bullet points or something. That can be quite good. And I do that sometimes. I'll have bullet points so I can make sure I know what I'm talking about. But just to do it similar with these things, then none of this is scripted. I've got a couple of questions written down just in case I run out of natural questions to ask. But we always notice, and the same thing with the video work we do. As soon as it's scripted, you can just tell they're literally just sat there monotonous reading off a script, and it's just not kind of interactive at all.
No, I think unscripted is definitely the best way, and that's why I think the fear of making mistakes is almost something that shouldn't be an issue, because if you're doing something unscripted, the mistakes are what make it fun. The mistakes are what make it quirky and give it personality. You know, we're not perfect as people. We don't get everything right all the time. So getting a word messed up, or, you know, losing your train of thought or whatever, it's just what happens in real life. So I get that, you know, if it's forever encapsulated in video and put on social media, that people might see that and judge you. But actually, if they're the kind of people that are going to judge you for making one mistake in a whole hour-long video, are they really the kind of people that you want to be working with? Like, seriously.
So we're going to wrap this up fairly soon. I'm aware there are a few people watching.
Yes,
we've got a few people watching still.
Joining us today.
So if people do have any questions, then please let yourself be known. Just type it in the Facebook chat. We're only really watching the Facebook chat because Instagram's all the way over there and I can't get to it. So if you are watching and you want to ask any questions, then head over to either YouTube or Facebook. I think I'm tracking on this little chat program thing that I've got. So just the last few things I had to ask, really. I noticed your Collabor8 theme for July is Money Matters.
Yes.
Is there any recurring themes or anything that seems to pop up along the way when you've been discussing with Collabor8 members?
Something that a lot of people feel is a big issue for them is sales, needing more of them. And that's a valid issue that a lot of startups have, because they are still learning how to get themselves out there. They're still learning to price themselves in a way that people perceive the value sufficiently that they want to buy, not pricing themselves too low, which is often a problem. People price themselves far too low, and then people think, well, that's going to be rubbish service because it's so cheap, so they don't buy. But equally, not pricing yourself so high that people think it's beyond me. And it's just figuring things out when you're a startup is quite hard. So a lot of people struggle for sales, but a lot of it is actually, you know, I hate to say it again, comes back to mindset and confidence. And, you know, a lot of times I will hear people saying that they're finding certain things difficult. And, you know, the thing that they're finding difficult is a legitimate thing to find difficult. A lot of other people would find it difficult too. But more often than not, the people that are saying they're struggling with these things are absolutely capable of doing it themselves, but they just don't believe it. And so getting ideas or inspiration from other people, or just being encouraged by somebody, you know, the process of encouraging someone is giving them courage to do it, because they can do it. They just don't believe that they can. And I do hear a lot of excuses. You know, this has happened, that's happened, this is going on. And I think I'm very cautious of judging people for giving an excuse, because that excuse to them is a really good reason why something is happening. And it's not for me to decide, well, that reason's legitimate and that one isn't. But what I do try and remind people of is being mindful that the excuses that they're making for doing things or not doing things are their excuses to make. And if they want to make progress, if you're forever putting a reason in the way as why you can't, is that an indicator that there's actually something in here that's not quite working as it should in their mindset? Because quite often people are their own worst enemies. So I listen out for it in myself. If I'm making an excuse for something, I catch myself doing it and I think, whoa, hold up. Is that a real reason, or are you just trying to give an excuse so that you don't have to admit the real reason why you don't want to do that? Usually there's a real reason, fear. You know, sometimes people will give an objection as to why they can't do something, and because they don't want to tell the truth. For example, they might not have the money and they don't want to accept or admit that they don't have the money. So I always encourage people to be honest about their real reasons for doing things with themselves and with other people, because life is a lot less stressful when there's honesty going on.
Money's always quite difficult because no one really wants to talk about money as well. I found this amongst my friends and other kind of businesses that we work with and things. No one really wants to talk about it. One I guess potentially valuable bit of advice I was given over the years, we can't really do it here anymore, but it's always, if you were to you know, business advice is double the price of your service. And the argument is, well, if I double the price of my service, then half my customers are going to leave me. Well, yes, but then you'd be doing the half the amount of work for the same amount of money. So it's things like that, which I would love to be able to do here, but if I double our prices here, I'm sure all of our customers will leave us, because that will make us double the price of any other IT company around here.
There's
when
a
we're
great
already
book
quite expensive.
on that subject, actually, which you might really
Right.
enjoy, which is called Oversubscribed. It was one of the
Yes.
first business books that I read, and it's all about getting to a point where you are so busy that you just start increasing your prices by 20% at a time, and with that same philosophy that, you know, you're working harder.
As it kind of drops off, and then yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Rather than just doubling off the cuff.
Yeah, quite a big hard cut. No, double straight away.
Yeah. But I mean, money is something that a lot of people worry about, a lot of people don't like to talk about. And if I may be so bold as to give myself a little plug here,
Sure.
because I'm aware that money is such a big issue for people. And obviously I want people to grow their businesses and achieve financial security for their families. That's my big driver. That's my passion for why I do what I do. I want to see people live lives that they find fulfilling and be able to leave a legacy. But so often people, not just business people, but people out there generally in the wider public, have got issues with money. You know, they've got debt. Typical family debt on average is about 20,000 per family, and that's outside of the mortgage. So a lot of people are in debt. It's very common, but people don't talk about it. So they feel like they're on their own. They feel like nobody understands. They're ashamed. They feel guilty, embarrassed. They don't want to talk about money. So when someone asks them to spend money, and if they're just starting a business and they've got debt, you know, they haven't got any money to spend. So they think, well, I can't invest because I haven't got any money. And I understand that, but that's why I've started doing the money mentoring stuff that I'm doing now.
That's a huge pressure as well, blimey.
It is a huge pressure. So I just thought, actually, this opportunity presented itself for me to get out there and help give people a bit of a financial education and improve their family's finances. It's a free service that I'm offering. I'm helping one family a week for as long as I'm able to. Because
was that a certification you've had to go through or something? I saw you'd be accredited or something?
I'm accredited, so I work under a larger organisation. I'm self-employed in doing it. I do it for myself, but I've had to kind of go through their regulations and things like that. It's regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, so it's officially controlled role. And I've taken exams to make sure that I'm able to go out and do that, and I follow a set process. So I don't just decide I'm going to sit with someone and talk about that.
It's how to fix your finances.
But actually it does, and that's the great thing about it. So
I think the best bit of advice we had for not fixing our finances, but I think improving our finances was Profit First. I don't know if you've come across that book before.
I haven't.
And that probably is one of the single biggest changes we made at Techers, and personally I think as well with our finances. I definitely, if anyone's watching or listening or anything, definitely read it or get the I think I did the Audible book, the audio book, and it's a way that everything you earn every month. So with business finances, everything between on the 10th of every month and on the 25th every month, we do Profit First. So Profit First is where you add up everything you've earned from the last time you did Profit First, and you basically split it off between multiple bank accounts. So we've got accounts for corporation tax, for office equipment, for staff bonuses, for all sorts of things. Anything that you kind of want to separate money off to, and profit is of course one of those. And so every month, twice a month, we do these allocations where we take everything we've earned. Most of it goes back into what we call our OPEX account, which is where everything goes back out of it again to paying for the equipment we've bought for our customers and paying for our bills and all the subscriptions we've paid for. Everything comes out of one account. But in the background, everything else is trickling through to all of the other accounts. So we're starting to build up quite a nice, some call it a war chest. But it's just a nice bit of savings for when we moved offices. We had, I don't know what it was now, maybe £5,000 or £10,000 just sat there that had I have done that without doing this, it would have been a finger in the air of like, oh, I think we can probably afford to buy some new furniture, and oh, I think we could afford to do that, but there's a tax bill coming out next month and there's a VAT bill in 2 months' time, so it's trying to kind of just figure it out. Whereas the Profit First way means that if I've got the money in the account, I can spend it.
Yeah.
And it's really nice the way we've done that, and so with the profit on that, the whole point of the book, I guess, is that even if you're struggling in business and you're not making a profit, even if you can just put 1% or 0.5% into the profit account and you put that in there whilst you're still paying off, maybe the other 30 or 40% is going towards your debts or something, that you're paying off your debts, but you also are getting a bit of profit growing in the background. And then it then takes a step further so with our profit account, we leave half of it in there, and that's growing our rainy day fund. So we're hoping to grow probably like a 6-month whether Brexit or some crash happens or something, is the contingency of we have a really, really bad few months. We've actually got the savings in there, pay for staff salaries and pay for the business to run for as long as we can do. And ideally, I guess 6 months should give us enough time to fix the problem or do something to, work around it, get some more customers in or do something to fix that.
It's amazing that you've got that. It sounds quite similar to, there's a book by a guy called T. Harv Eker. It's about Millionaire Mindset, and he works primarily with individuals rather than businesses, but he has a very similar ethos that, you send your money off into different jars for different things, and it's based on percentages. So rather than learning to live within your means, you say, right, from the money that I've got coming in, 10% is going to giving, 10% is going into the play fund, which is your fun money. And it's just splitting your money into pots in the same way so that you've got, but the great thing is, and similar to maybe one of the things that you're doing, is he talks about having a financial freedom jar. And basically that is money that you do not ever touch. It is just there, almost as a money magnet, he talks about. It kind of having it there means that more will come, whether you believe in law of attraction or any of that kind of stuff. So having it there and knowing I've got an abundance, it can sit there and I don't need it, I've got enough elsewhere. Having that there and maybe investing it safely in low risk investments so that it can actually build up and bring some income in the long run. So it's not just sitting there doing nothing for you, but it's not to be touched ever. And you add a little tiny bit to it, even if it's just £1 every week, or if you've got a bit of spare change in your pocket,
to add into it.
And the fact that you're doing that consciously and you're not touching it deliberately means that it will grow, and it actually means that you will have a decent amount of money.
Yes, it does.
That you're not even needing. So
and that's abundant. And that works really well from doing exactly that for the family side of things as well, which is what you're going to there is that. So we do the same thing every time we do our company profit first. We then do our own personal profit first. So we have. We've got 2 kids. We've got a bank account set up for each of them. We've got an account set up for the bills, so all of the bills and mortgage, everything goes out of that. We've got a food account. We've got our own personal spending account. So all of our money gets pulled together, and then we split it out between all those accounts. So my wife gets enough or she actually gets more than I do because she gets the money for the kids spending while she's looking after the kids.
Same in our house.
I get my spending money, which isn't much because now I've driven an electric car. I don't need to pay for petrol, which is a big cost of mine.
That's a good thing, right?
Which is a very good thing, yeah.
I mean, very nice
great, and but it's really, really nice because things like the food account, so that'll pay for obviously our groceries. But then if we have a good month, then more money will go in the food account, which means we can actually go out and have like a meal out. And on the mortgage side of things, we're hoping to, I'd say hoping, we'd love to be able to pay our mortgage off, but that's quite a way down the line. But the more that goes in there, so our percentages are weighted quite heavily into our bills account at the moment. So the more we pay into our mortgage, we can then overpay our mortgage and try and get that paid off quicker.
Absolutely, makes a massive difference. Even just
the idea that you have a good month means that you can benefit by doing extra things, and you can have that night out at the cinema or holidays. We've got a holiday fund that's slowly building up. So when we get £500 or £600, we'll do another week away at Centre Parks or something. It's just having that slowly grow there rather than having the big one account that we always used to have, and then. It's just a guessing game. You just try and hope that you've got the money, and then you realise, the washing machine's broken, you need to go and replace that. You don't have the money for that. It's that whole... So I guess just to summarise, profit first, if you haven't read it, 100% recommend it. It's been a big change for us.
That sounds awesome. I might have to go and have
there's lots of calculations you do, but it goes through. There's like a little Excel spreadsheet thing that you can do. But,
love a good spreadsheet.
Yeah, good old spreadsheets. But yes, I think we will probably... leave it there. I guess before we finish off, do you want to just talk about your networking events? When are they? Where are they? Next one?
At the moment we operate across Hampshire. I am looking to grow it. I've had people as far as Newcastle start to express interest.
Wow, okay.
But for now, I need to make sure that Hampshire is really working 100% as it needs to. So we are growing, and I've actually lost track of how many events we are currently doing every month. That sounds awful, but I think it's probably about 10. Wow, okay. So we have got a meet-up this evening, for example, in Southampton.
Whereabouts is that one?
That's in Portswood, upstairs in an event room that belongs to the Mitre pub in Portswood. We have stuff going on this week in the daytime. We have much smaller events in the daytime for people that don't like big crowds and just want to get to know a few people.
That's been one thing that's driven me nuts, is that lots of the networking events are evenings and weekends. Oh, sorry, not weekends. Evenings and mornings. Very early mornings or late evenings.
Yeah.
and I've got kids.
Yeah.
I can't go to lots of those.
No, so the reason that I set them up when I did is because as a mum, I needed things to be accessible to me. So I have all of our meetups are either after the school run in the morning or in the evening, when most of people with young children at least should be in bed, and it's not so difficult for one partner to go out if there's another partner to stay at home, of course. But then there's always babysitters, whereas sort of early mornings, you can't get a babysitter to come in at 6 a.m. while you go to a breakfast meeting, because they've got their own families doing stuff. So, yeah, we have daytime and evenings. We've got Fareham this week, and I think we've got Kingsworthy this week as well in the daytimes. But we've got all of our events are on our website. We've got an events calendar on there so people can visit the website, have a look at what's going on, book on through that. So it's all automated.
What's the website address?
It's www.collabor8here.co.uk, but that's Collabor8 with a number 8 in it. So what I might do is pop something into the comments so that people can find the link. But it's COLLABOR8 HERE.co.uk.
And I guess the Facebook group as well, which is the Hampshire something.
Yeah,
something,
so
Collabor8.
Now you're asking me. The Hampshire group is called Collabor8-Hampshire Business Owners Community. And we also have a Facebook page, which is Collabor8 UK. So if people go to the page, they can look at the groups from there and see what we've got going on as well. Yeah, we also have a national one now as well, which is Build Your Business, Collaborate with Nicky Tapley. So
branching out.
Yeah, it's exciting times. But I do more sort of lives and things like that in the national one than the local one, just where I want people to be able to get to know me and stuff. And I share bits of information and advice and stuff like that on there.
So have you got a... you've got your own personal Facebook account, and you've got a personal Facebook page as well as the groups, is that?
Yeah, so because I don't just do Collabor8, I also do the one-to-one networking coaching, and I'm doing the Business Success Squad, and I'm doing the money mentoring. I have all of that sitting under my Nicky Tapley Empowerment Facebook page. It's all about empowering people to achieve their goals. So it's Nicky Tapley Empowerment if you want to see what I'm generally up to, or you can go to the Collabor8 page if you want to learn more about the networking stuff.
Cool. Awesome. Well, if there are no questions from anybody, I know lots of people have joined in and out. I think we've got Kelly and Soraya watching at the moment. Hello.
Thanks for checking in, ladies. Nice to have you joining us. If anyone has got any questions at all before we sign off, you're very welcome to just hit us up. Otherwise, I think we're
done.
Probably done. Oh.
Are you going to hear yourself?
That's weird. Don't want to do that. That's one thing I also say about lives and getting comfortable, putting yourself out there and networking. Don't watch it back. Just don't, because it can really make you squirm.
It's horrendous. Yeah, it is very horrendous. We try not to, but where we actually that's quite good, because where Bryony edits the videos, I don't have to listen to myself back again. We normally skip back to make sure the audio worked. Yeah. Cool. Okay, we shall leave it there. Thank you very much, Nikki from Collabor8 and from your personal brands for joining us. Thank you for your time, and we will see you all in the next one. Oh, forgotten the camera. There we go. Never mind. That's why we don't do it ourselves. Thanks everyone for watching, listening in. Oh, Maddie said events you are sponsoring. Cough.
Oh yes. Okay. Thank you, Maddie. Yes, I probably should say that we are very proud to be sponsoring the My VIP Awards, which is being run by Maddie. So thank you, Maddie, for the reminder. Yeah,
you're welcome, Maddie.
The lead sponsor for that award. So they're coming up in October, and I believe tickets are on sale now, early bird tickets. So if you want to find out more about that, get in touch with Maddie on Facebook. She's Maddie Alexander Grout. So just hit her up and she'll give you the info.
She's one of the ladies that turns up to every networking event. Kind of like Ian Gribble. You must have seen Ian Gribble.
So Maddie, me, Ian Gribble, Ian Skinner.
Yeah. I haven't bumped into Ian Skinner yet, actually.
Have you not? How have you managed this? Yeah, we kind of all go together to pretty much, we end up in the same events. Yeah. It's great. But
like you say, it's very nice when you get to know people. So yeah,
it is, yeah, you have your little group of friends. Yeah, it's lovely.
Cool. Anyway, that's all for this week. Thank you, everybody, for listening in, watching, whatever you're doing. And not sure who's on next or anything along those lines. But yeah, we'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.